Today, I get the pleasure of showing you a car that I believe is revolutionizing people's perception on the way they view Kia. Before, it's just a Kia, and today, that changes. This is a 2018 Kia Stinger GT. Follow me while I show you all the cool things and the not so cool things about this car. Let's start with the front end of the car. The car looks like it has a presence. One thing that I really like about this car is the adaptive cruise control and everything and how it's integrated into the grille. It really does blend in as it's part of the grille, and there's a little lens here you can see that is the adaptation part of the cruise. If we move to the side of the bumper here, we have functional vents that cool these big Brembo brakes. And this model comes with the big red Brembo brakes. Extremely hard to miss. It also comes with Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, a very performance-based tire. We also move along to the side of the car, and it has another functional vent for airflow. One thing that not so cool part of this car is the non-functional hood vents. They look cool, but they don't really have a functionality attached to them. From outside the car, we can see that the car has a very nice heads-up display, which I'll show you in the car. Bringing you inside briefly, I just want to point out the first thing that stuck out to me was the big sub below the driver's seat and the passenger seat. That is an awesome feature in my opinion. And look at the interior. It just looks like an expensive car. And it feels like an expensive car, which I'll show you. Moving to the back end of the car, we got more bright red Brembo brakes. And another not so cool portion of the car, in my opinion, is the reflector that goes into the body. Some people like it, some people don't. I still have to get used to this. Moving on to the back profile of the car, I really like how it looks. This particular model doesn't have the stinger across the trunk like a lot of the Maseratis do, as you can see right here, whereas it would have the letters. It has a nice profile on the back with a fake diffuser, if you will, a lower valence. So moving back to the front end of the car, I really like these headlights, and these headlights hold probably more processing power than a Windows PC from the 90s, as in they're all adaptive. It has automatic high beams. The projectors move with the road as you turn the wheel. It has a beautiful display of LED turn signals. So moving under the hood, we have a really nice looking engine bay. And what I mean when I say that is everything seems very symmetrical. You got the strut braces going to the front bumper. They're a very nice brushed aluminum color. You have the twin turbo V6 engine, 3.3 liter, pushing out 365 horsepower, 375 foot-pounds of torque. And you can't miss the red turbo on the engine cover. So moving on to the interior. Being outside the car with that Kia badge, you walk into this and it's like you reach a different dimension. You really sit in this thing, the badge on the steering wheel, your brain's really trying to make sense of where you are, because I remember being 16 years old, friends buying Kias, the Sportage I think it was, and you really thought to yourself, I think I'd rather bike to school. Kias were almost a laughing stock back in the day. Sitting in this cockpit now is like, I'm honestly blown away at how far this company has come and what this car offers at such a low price point in comparison to its competitors. Let's move on to the fit and finish of the car. Overall, you got your soft leather material, you got your cross stitching, you have very nice bright brushed aluminum pieces everywhere. You have it on the speakers. Everything is very industrial and modern feeling in this car. When I first got into this car, I couldn't believe that it was suede wrapped A-pillars and ceiling. To me, that really brought out the value in this car. So, moving on to the cluster portion of this car. It really tells you everything. You have your boost pressure, you have your torque meter, you have your oil temperature, and I'm sure going through the infotainment, you can customize and choose what you want to show on your display. Addition to that, we have really nice gauges with red needles to make it feel like a sport sedan slash hatch. And moving directly up from there, you have your heads-up display. And that is the first time I've ever experienced a heads-up display in any car. It has, basically what I'm getting at is that it has all the technology you would expect a modern day car to have, with addition to all the luxuries. Moving on to the center of the car, you have this huge screen that holds all your infotainment. So as most cars have today, this thing is loaded with Bluetooth, iPod connectivity, everything you can imagine. Below the infotainment display, we have these really cool looking propeller-like vents. They really remind me of a Mercedes interior. And then going down from the vents, we have a beautiful display of the HVAC. You got your buttons for the infotainment display. And then moving aside, we have everything you need to plug into the infotainment display on a really nice feeling track-driven cover, I guess you will. And then we have this toggle-like shifter, which is really weird. First time I've ever seen one in a car or driven one. So it's like a toggle. It's not like a drive, park, 1, 2. You have your parking brake. You have your driving mode selector. You have your traction control on-off switch, which is what all of us gearheads want to see, is a button for that, on versus off. You have all of your heated seat, heating steering wheel, rear view, auto on, off, and of course passenger heated seat. Moving on from that, we have this really nice, just like everything else, fit and finish armrest. They're a beautiful looking seat, and they really feel like they hold you in place, which I'll experience on the road shortly. I really like the way they look and how it says GT on the headrests. They have a plastic backing, which really makes it feel like a race car. And moving on to the rear seating, we have really nice looking rear seats that holds all the amenities that you should want in a luxury sedan. So now I'm going to take you guys on a road test, and we'll see how this car feels, how it handles, of course, how it puts you back in the seat, and we'll see how it stands out to its competition. All right, so putting the car into reverse. First thing that I want to show you guys is the camera. It looks like it has a camera beaming down on the Stinger GT, but it's not. It's the cameras all around the car that's painting this picture for you. So you have a full 360 top view of the GT as you're backing up. Very cool feature in my opinion. When I first seen that, I flipped right out. So we are taking this 2018 Stinger GT, Kia Stinger GT, for a road test. Now, a lot of guys who have driven this car say that it outturns 3 Series BMWs. So I would love to experience that in a Kia. All right, so give it a little bit of gas and you're off. Wow, that has a lot of torque. You can definitely feel that it has 376 foot-pounds of torque. And it's almost instantaneous too. There's no waiting in this car. I am in sport mode, mind you. Give it a little gas. Yes, you have throttle on tap like that. Throttle response in this car is extremely well. I'd say that it's better than our RS. Driving down the road, it definitely feels like a smooth sailing car. You can't hear any rattles. The steering is very smooth, the ride is very smooth. And keep in mind, we're in sport mode. You can definitely hear the exhaust back there too, which is something I enjoy. I don't know if other people would enjoy. Right now, that kind of segues into the topic of where this car sits in the market, because I believe Kia came out with this car to compete with the German competitors, Audi, Mercedes, BMW. This car loaded is still less money than a base model of a 5 Series BMW. So you got to ask yourself, where's the value and what you really want in a car? I can't see BMW Audi owners switching over to a Kia. So that ultimately leaves the question, where does this car sit in the market? You have people like me who are gearheads who appreciate what Kia is doing, all-wheel drive, turbocharged, loaded to the nines, suede roof, like, you know, really beautiful car. But do we really want to jump into a Kia for $50,000? $50,000 gets you into a used Nissan GTR. Buys you a left-hand drive Supra. Buys you a R34 GTR. Buys you a lot of cool cars that you've always wanted as a child. So that's where I'm having trouble with placing this car in the market. And who's buying this car? So the one thing I can tell you that this car does have, on top of the fully featured interior, 365 horsepower, 376 foot-pounds of torque, is a 5-year full comprehensive warranty. Now, when you're juggling the thought of purchasing the car you've always wanted as a child, Supra, GTR, Mustang, whatever it may be, there's that little guy in your head that's shouting to you, warranty, warranty. And this definitely is the upper hand when it comes to warranty and performance. So the rides on bumpier roads, I'd say it's still good, but you can feel a lot more than I thought you'd feel. We are in sport mode. I did my research on this car, and a lot of folks are saying that when you put it in sport mode, the suspension only really changes about 10%. And I did experience that earlier, which I would agree with. Testing out the steering in this car, extremely responsive, just like the throttle. It is electric power steering in this car, much like the RS. And I think that it's more responsive than the RS in the steering department. Steering and throttle response in this car, I think, are above and beyond. Again, that pull, it pulls like a freight train. The torque is almost instantaneous. It does have flappy paddle gear selectors here. I'm gonna give those a try. This car does not have a dual clutch setup. So that's one thing that kind of bothers me with that price point, is you're spending $50,000 on a car that doesn't have a dual clutch. So we're gonna test out the, whoa. It does shift very fast though. Wow, that sure moves. Wow. 100 kilometers an hour in no time at all, and that's not full throttle, people. All right, so I'm gonna conclude this video. And the last thing I have to say about this car is that it is going to change the way people say or perceive Kia. It's no longer going to be, it's just a Kia. This car is going to be Kia's flagship car that is going to tap into the performance world, the luxury world, and hopefully add value to consumers with the price point versus what you get. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like and subscribe. Peace.